My dear child, there are some connections that may look right on the surface. They may feel exciting, comforting, even convincing in the beginning, but deep down, something in your spirit feels unsettled, and you try to ignore it. You tell yourself you're overthinking, that maybe you just need to give it time. But the truth is, not every man who comes into your life is sent by God, and if you do not learn to recognize the difference, you may open your heart to someone who was never meant to lead you. Because you are not just choosing a companion, you are choosing influence, direction, and in many ways, your spiritual covering, and that is not something you can take lightly, because the wrong man will not only affect your emotions, he will affect your mindset, your values, your peace, even your relationship with God, and it won't always happen suddenly. It will happen slowly, in ways that are easy to justify in the beginning, until one day you realize you have drifted far from where you once stood. The first man you must stay away from is the one who pulls you away from God, not always directly, not always obviously, but subtly. He may not tell you to stop praying. He may not openly oppose your faith, but his lifestyle, his priorities, his choices, they slowly begin to influence yours. Your time with God becomes less consistent. Your focus begins to shift. Your spiritual discipline weakens. And you don't even notice it at first, because it happens gradually. But this is not a small thing, because any connection that weakens your relationship with God is not something that is meant to stay in your life. The second man you must stay away from is the one who creates confusion instead of clarity. One moment he seems interested, the next moment he becomes distant. His words and actions don't align, and you find yourself constantly trying to understand where you stand, what he feels, what this connection even is. And instead of feeling secure, you feel uncertain, anxious, always questioning. And this is where many women get stuck. They mistake inconsistency for mystery. They think if they just try harder, they will gain clarity. But clarity should not have to be chased. When something is right, it becomes clear over time, not more confusing. The third man you must stay away from is the one who disrespects your boundaries, whether those boundaries are emotional, physical, or spiritual. Because a man who truly values you will not try to push you into compromising who you are. He will not pressure you to move faster than you are ready. He will not make you feel guilty for standing firm in your values. Instead, he will respect your limits, he will honor your decisions, and he will support the standards you have set for your life. And if someone makes you feel like your boundaries are a problem, then they are not the person meant to protect your heart. The fourth man you must stay away from is the one who makes everything about himself, his needs, his timing, his emotions, and leaves no room for yours. Because a healthy connection is not one-sided. It is built on mutual respect, mutual effort, and mutual care. But when you find yourself constantly giving, constantly adjusting, constantly trying to keep things balanced while he remains passive or self-focused, that is not something you should ignore. Because over time, that imbalance will drain you and leave you feeling unseen, unheard, and unvalued. And the fifth man you must stay away from is the one who is not growing, because growth matters, not perfection, but direction. A man who is not willing to grow, to learn, to become better will eventually hold you back, not because he intends to, but because he is not moving forward. And if you are trying to grow spiritually, emotionally, and mentally while he remains in the same place, that gap will only increase over time, and what once felt manageable will become a source of frustration. And my dear child, I know this is not always easy to accept, because sometimes you may see potential, you may believe he can change, you may feel connected in ways that make it hard to walk away, but you must understand this. Potential is not reality, and you cannot build your future on who someone might become. You must look at who they are now, because waiting for someone to change while ignoring who they currently are will only lead to disappointment. And God is not asking you to fix someone. He is asking you to discern, to recognize what is aligned with your life and what is not. So do not ignore the signs. Do not silence your intuition. Do not lower your standards just to keep a connection alive. Because the right man will not require you to compromise your peace, your faith, or your identity. And until that person comes, it is better to stand alone in alignment than to walk with someone who slowly leads you away from who you are meant to be. Because your heart is valuable, your purpose is important, and the decisions you make now will shape the direction of your future. So choose wisely, and never ignore what God is trying to show you. My dear child, now that you've begun to recognize the kinds of men you must stay away from, there is something even deeper you must understand. Because awareness alone is not enough. You must also have the strength to walk away when you see these signs clearly, and that is where many women struggle. Not in seeing the truth, but in acting on it. Because your heart has a way of holding on. It remembers the good moments, the attention, the connection, and even when you begin to notice the red flags, you may find yourself making excuses, telling yourself, maybe he didn't mean it. Maybe he'll change. Maybe I just need to be patient. And slowly, without realizing it, you start lowering your standards just to keep something that is not aligned. But listen carefully. Love should never require you to abandon your values, and attention should never be confused with intention. Just because someone shows interest in you does not mean they are meant for you. And just because something feels good in the moment does not mean it is good for your future. And my dear child, one of the most important things you must learn is this. You cannot build something stable on inconsistent behavior, because inconsistency creates insecurity. It keeps you guessing, questioning, adjusting, and over time, it begins to affect how you see yourself. You start wondering if you are asking for too much, if your expectations are too high, if maybe you need to be more understanding, and before you realize it, you are the one changing, not him. And that is where the danger lies. Because when you stay in a situation that lacks clarity and respect, you begin to lose your sense of worth. Not suddenly, but slowly, in ways that are easy to overlook. And this is not what God wants for you. He does not bring someone into your life to confuse you, to drain you, or to make you question your value. And here is something you must hold on to. The right man will not make you feel like you have to compete for his attention. He will not make you feel like you are too much or not enough. He will not leave you wondering where you stand. Instead, he will bring clarity, consistency, and peace, not perfection, but direction. And my dear child, you must also be careful not to fall in love with potential, because potential can be deceiving. It makes you believe in what could be instead of seeing what actually is. And when you focus on potential, you begin to justify things that should not be ignored. You begin to wait for change instead of recognizing reality. But a relationship cannot be built on who someone might become. It must be built on who they are right now, because waiting for someone to change while staying emotionally invested will only lead to frustration, and God is not asking you to fix someone. He is asking you to discern. And this is where your boundaries become important, because boundaries are not walls to push people away. They are standards that protect your peace. They define what you will and will not accept, and a man who respects you will respect your boundaries, not challenge them, not test them, not try to make you feel guilty for having them. And if someone consistently crosses those boundaries, that is not something to overlook. That is something to respond to, because what you allow repeatedly will become your reality. And if you continue to accept behavior that does not align with your values, you are teaching that person how to treat you. And my dear child, I know it can feel difficult to walk away, especially when you have invested your time, your emotions, your energy, but staying in something that is not right will cost you far more. In the long run, it will cost you your peace, your clarity, your growth. And sometimes, the reason it is so hard to let go is not because the connection is strong, but because you are afraid of being alone. Afraid that you may not find something better, afraid that this might have been your chance. But hear this clearly. Settling out of fear will never lead to fulfillment, and what God has prepared for you is not something you have to settle for. It is something that will align with you without forcing, without confusion, without compromise. And until that comes, you must learn to be comfortable in your own space, to value your peace, to trust your worth, because the way you see yourself will determine what you accept from others. So do not chase attention. Do not hold on to inconsistency. Do not ignore the signs just because your emotions are strong. Instead, choose clarity, choose respect, choose alignment. And my dear child, remember this. It is better to walk alone in peace than to walk with someone who slowly leads you away from who you are meant to be. Because the right man will not take you further from God. He will walk with you toward him. And that is how you will know that what you have chosen is something you never needed to question. My dear child, now that you've begun to understand who you must stay away from, there is one final truth you need to hold on to, because this is where everything becomes clear. It's not just avoiding the wrong man. It's about becoming the kind of woman who no longer feels drawn to what is not right for her. Because if you don't grow in awareness, in standards, in self-worth, you may walk away from one wrong connection only to repeat the same pattern with someone new. And that is why this journey is not just about them. It is also about you, about what you tolerate, what you excuse, what you believe you deserve. And my dear child, you must understand this deeply. The way you see yourself will determine the kind of love you accept. If you doubt your worth, you will accept inconsistency. If you fear being alone, you will settle for less than what you deserve. If you are unsure of your standards, you will allow others to define them for you. And that is why your foundation must be strong. Not built on attention, not built on validation, but built on truth. The truth of who you are in God's eyes. Because when you truly understand your value, you will no longer feel the need to chase what is not aligned. You will recognize it early, and you will walk away without hesitation. And here's something you must not ignore. The wrong man often appears in the right moment. When you feel lonely, when you feel unseen, when you are emotionally vulnerable, and that is not a coincidence. Because in those moments, your guard is lower, your desire for connection is stronger, and you are more likely to overlook things you would normally notice. But this is where discernment becomes essential, because not everything that comes into your life during a vulnerable moment is meant to stay. Some things come to test your growth, to see if you will. Choose differently this time. And my dear child, you must also learn the difference between attention and intention, because attention is easy. It can come from anyone. It can feel good in the moment. It can make you feel noticed, desired, important. But intention is different. Intention is consistent. It is clear. It is aligned with action. A man with intention will not confuse you. He will not leave you guessing. He will not disappear and return without explanation. He will not make you question your place in his life. Instead, he will show up. He will be steady. He will move with purpose. And this is what you must begin to look for. Not words, not promises, not potential, but patterns. Because patterns reveal truth, not what someone says, but what they consistently do. And my dear child, do not ignore red flags just because you see good qualities. Because the presence of good does not cancel out the presence of what is wrong. And many women stay longer than they should, because they focus on what they like, instead of paying attention to what is not right. And you must be honest with yourself, because deep down, you often see the signs early. You notice the inconsistency, the lack of effort, the subtle disrespect, but you tell yourself it's not a big deal. You give it time. You hope it will change. But ignoring the signs does not change the outcome. It only delays it. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to leave. So my dear child, choose awareness early. Choose clarity early. Do not wait until you are deeply attached to recognize what was already there from the beginning. And here is something that will guide you. The right man will not make you feel confused about your worth. He will not make you feel like you have to prove yourself. He will not make you feel like you are too much or not enough. Instead, he will bring peace, not chaos, clarity, not confusion, consistency, not unpredictability. And most importantly, he will support your relationship with God, not pull you away from it. And until that person comes, do not lower your standards to fill a temporary space. Do not settle for something that only feels good in the moment, but leaves you empty later. Because you are not meant for temporary connections that drain you. You are meant for something that builds you. Something that aligns with your purpose. Something that reflects the kind of love that does not require you to lose yourself. So stand firm in who you are. Protect your heart. Trust your discernment. And do not be afraid to walk away from anything that does not feel right in your spirit. Because the right man will not require you to question everything. He will confirm what you already feel. And when that happens, you will not feel confused. You will feel at peace. And that peace is something you should never ignore,